There's one thing everyone fears: the silence of the late night. When the world is asleep and all that remains is the sound of the wind and your own heartbeat. But for some people, that night wasn't just silence, it was the beginning of a real nightmare. These are true horror stories about people who were completely alone at night. Each story unfolds under the weight of darkness when there's no one left to call for help. Brace yourself, because sometimes the scariest thing isn't a ghost, but the human standing just outside your door. I always triple check door locks. Comes with traveling alone. But this time I wasn't alone, and someone still got in. I'm a travel nurse, which means I move around a lot. Different cities, strange rooms, endless temporary nights. New places, new patients, new temporary homes. You learn to stay alert. You learn to double check things, locks, windows, exits, like quiet rituals before sleep. I'm not paranoid, just cautious, because safety becomes a fragile habit. It's part of the job. So when two of my friends suggested a weekend cabin getaway near Asheville, just us, some wine, some laughter, a bit of peace and quiet comfort, it sounded perfect. I was burned out from a long ICU rotation in Durham, and the idea of unwinding felt like a breath after drowning for weeks. We booked a 3-bedroom Airbnb up in the hills, surrounded by woods and whispering night air. It was modern, but tucked into the woods, just outside the Blue Ridge Parkway. You could see the stars at night, and the porch had one of those old rocking chairs that creaked gently under the soft mountain breeze with every gust of wind. The first night was easy. Laughter, grilled, veggie skewers, too much rosé, and the sound of carefree voices fading into peaceful silence. We played cards until midnight and passed out in our rooms without much thought. I do remember carefully and deliberately locking up before heading to bed. I remember checking the keypad and giving the sturdy silver doorknob a tug like I always do. The second morning, I noticed something odd. My toiletries bag had been unzipped, not wide open or anything, just slightly, like someone had quietly and deliberately peeked inside. I told myself I'd probably done it myself the night before, trying hard not to overthink it. Maybe I was more tipsy than I thought. That afternoon, Jess asked if either of us had moved her phone charger. It had been on the kitchen counter. None of us had. She found it an hour later on the porch railing. The air suddenly felt heavier, uneasy, but unspoken. "You probably left it there last night." Bree shrugged, just gave her a look. "I didn't even go outside last night. We let it go." Laughed it off, pretending nothing had changed. Vacation, brain wine, late nights. But that night, I made sure to lock the front door again. Not just lock it, test it. I punched the code in myself, pulled the handle hard, even tapped the bolt with my knuckle to hear it was set. It was my quiet ritual of safety, one last control before sleep. At 6:13 the next morning, I woke up to light in the hallway and a strangely cold, unsettling breeze coming through the house. I got up to check and found the back door standing eerily, completely wide open. Not just unlocked open, like someone had carelessly pushed it out and slipped away unnoticed. That door didn't have a keypad, just a regular deadbolt. And I swear I locked it. Jess swore the same. So unless someone forgot or we were all losing it, that moment was when the whole feeling changed forever. The fun vibe of the weekend started feeling thin, uneasy, and strangely brittle, almost forced. We still ate breakfast and joked about ghost stories, but we were all watching the shadows a little longer than before, a quiet fear creeping in. Bree even asked if maybe the place was being used by someone else when it wasn't booked. I pulled up the Airbnb calendar on my phone and showed them, hoping facts could silence that new tension. It had been blocked off for a full week just for us. Still, I emailed the host. They were polite, carefully measured, almost rehearsed in tone. Said the cleaning crew was their only other point of access, and that no one should have been by. No one at all, they insisted softly. That evening, we didn't drink. We locked both doors, double-checked all the windows, and sat on the porch for a while, listening to the wind shift around the cabin before heading in. We heard 3 short beeps. It came from the front door. You know that electronic tone when someone punches in a keypad? Yeah, that. Not an alert from inside the house, but a sharp, deliberate rhythm of intrusion. The actual sound of the buttons being pressed. I held my breath, turned off the living room light, and moved slowly, every heartbeat echoing louder than sound, and crept toward the door. The porch light was still on, but I didn't see anyone through the little window at the top. I checked the lock, feeling that thin thread of safety tremble. It was still in place, but then the beeping happened again. 3 deliberate tones echoed in the silence, followed by a short pause and a final chirp. That's the sound it makes when you enter the correct code. The quiet air felt heavier now. The lock didn't disengage. I think whoever it was must have panicked or gotten something wrong right at the end. Maybe they mistyped the final digit, trembling slightly in fear. Maybe they were just testing it. I backed away and whispered for the girls to grab their phones and stay in their rooms. I called 911 with trembling hands, but quiet focus kept my voice low, and told them someone was trying to enter the cabin. By the time a sheriff's deputy arrived 20 minutes later, there was no one out there. No footprints on the porch, just wind-blown leaves swirling softly and that creaking rocking chair under the pale night. He walked the perimeter, barely glancing at anything, looked bored, and asked if we were sure we hadn't accidentally locked someone out. Maybe a neighbor, a friend. No, we didn't know anyone in Asheville. When I asked if the door log could be checked, he said that was up to the Airbnb host. He left after saying, "Keep the doors locked and stay cautious tonight." Like that was new advice. The next morning, I packed up early, heart pounding with leftover dread. So did Bree and Jess. We were supposed to stay another night, but none of us wanted to. We didn't even talk much in the car. Just tense smiles and those weird little laughs people do when they're trying to act normal, pretending the fear had vanished. I never got a follow-up from the host. No closure, no answers, only silence. Never heard if they looked into the keypad log or if anything was found. But when I went back to my apartment, I changed every password and lock I had, every small symbol of safety and trust. Airbnb, email, phone, everything. Whoever it was knew the code. That meant they either had inside access or had been watching long enough to understand every careful move. My name's Logan. I was 22 when this happened. Summer of 2021, a season of restless freedom and fragile calm. A buddy of mine, Sam, had this rental house just off campus in Denton. Nothing fancy, but it had a decent backyard string, lights, a fire pit, and most importantly, a false sense of comfort and safety. Perfect for a summer kickback. That Saturday night, a group of us threw a casual barbecue, laughing under the warm, trusting summer air. Nothing wild, just people from class, some folks from the coffee shop I worked at, and a few randoms who tagged along with friends. You know how those things go. Music playing cheap beer in the cooler, someone always burning the burgers, that kind of vibe. I think we were about 4 hours in, probably close to midnight, when the unexpected girl suddenly appeared silent and smiling. No one saw her arrive. She wasn't with anyone. She just sort of appeared. 1 second, it was the usual crowd. The next, there was this girl, standing quietly under the warm orange light drink in hand, smiling like she belonged there. Short brown hair, big dark eyes, plain jeans, and a white t-shirt. Kind of quiet, friendly enough when spoken to, but her calmness felt slightly out of place. Everyone assumed she came with someone else. That's the unspoken rule at parties like that. You don't question the plus ones. She drifted from group to group, her quiet smile never fading, her eyes constantly moving, always smiling, always nodding like she was in on the joke. I remember thinking she had this stillness about her. Not stiff exactly, just measured, controlled, like someone carefully mapping every voice and movement. A few hours went by. People started heading inside to charge their phones, use the bathroom, grab more drinks. I went in to throw away some paper plates and noticed her standing completely still, almost too quietly at the end of the hallway by the bedrooms. "Hey," I said, kind of casual. "Bathroom's back there, but the bedrooms are off limits." She didn't answer right away, just watching like she was waiting for something. Not the fancy part with studios and tourists, but the quieter section near Glen Oaks. You know, the kind with soft afternoon shadows and distant cicada hums, palm trees, cracked sidewalks, and two-bedroom houses that all look like they were built in the same year. I just finished my shift at the summer camp. I work at 7 long hours of sunscreen, laughter, and endless glittery chaos. "Someone's been in your room," she told Sam. He looked confused, his face tightening with disbelief and fear. "Like recently?" "Yeah, drawers open. I had cash in there. It's gone now." People were paying attention, their laughter fading into tense silence. A few of us started asking around. Nobody had seen anyone upstairs. Nobody had seen anyone suspicious except me. I mentioned the girl, quiet, short hair, white tee, standing too calmly among strangers. No one could figure out who she came with. And suddenly, she wasn't outside anymore. Sam checked the front door, the knob cold and slightly damp unlocked. We had no idea how long she'd been gone. We called the cops mostly to get a report on file. They took statements, checked for fingerprints, asked quiet, tired questions. Under flickering porch light, didn't find much. The weirdest part came the next morning. Sam's next-door neighbor, the ever-watchful Mr. Garza, stopped by. He's retired, living quietly, but always alert. Always kind of keeps an eye on the block. Told us someone had quietly broken into his place that night. Nothing major taken, just some small electronics and jewelry enough to unsettle everyone around. He showed us the footage from his Ring cam. There she was, same unsettling girl, same calm smile, same clothes, walking up to his door just after 3 o'clock, Looking around, slipping inside like she had a key, except the door was locked and the cam never caught her coming out. The police said it might be a local thief blending perfectly among careless crowds, who blends in at parties, targets, college neighborhoods, but it didn't sit right with me. She didn't move like someone casing a place. She moved like someone who already knew the layout, who already studied every corner, and already knew us. I remember people laughing about it the next day, like, "Whoa, crazy night, huh? Denton always got weirdos." But I kept picturing her standing in that hallway, so still, so deliberate, like time itself had paused watching, like we'd invited her without knowing it, like she belonged there more deeply, more naturally than any of us ever could. I teach 7th grade English, so trust me when I say my summer breaks are sacred and hard-earned after long, exhausting school months. That August, a few of us decided to rent a quiet, remote wooden cabin up in the Poconos for the weekend. Teachers, nurses, one software guy, just a tired, hopeful mix of old friends looking to unplug. We were all burned out from a rough school year, and honestly, just chilling by a fire with a cold drink beneath distant stars sounded like heaven. No emails, no alarms, no one yelling about Chromebooks, just peace before the unknown silence. The cabin was gorgeous and deeply secluded, tucked back into the silent, towering trees, with a wraparound porch and giant windows that made it feel like you were floating peacefully in the dark woods. There was no cell service, no calls, no distractions, which was half the point. You had to drive 10 long minutes back toward the highway just to get a signal. The first night was all laughter, wine, warm light, and terrible card games. We stayed up until almost 2, laughing under dim golden light and forgetting the woods outside. The next morning, I was making coffee when Carrie came in from the back porch, looking pale, uneasy, and strangely distant. "You saw someone last night, right?" she asked. I blinked at her. Saw someone where? She pointed through the trees behind the cabin, where sunlight trembled between the leaves like a warning. Out there. I woke up around 4 a.m. in the heavy stillness and looked out the bedroom window. I thought I saw someone quietly standing deep in the woods, unmoving. The others trickled in as she was telling me, and we all brushed it off. Probably just a shadow or a restless tree branch caught her sleepy eye. Carrie didn't push it, but I noticed she didn't sit with her back to the window the rest of the uneasy, slow-moving morning. That afternoon, we went into town for a short, peaceful trip for snacks and beer. And when we got back, the front door was locked, but one of the back windows, a small one in the kitchen, was open about 2 inches. None of us remembered opening it. I closed it, my heart beating slightly faster, and didn't say anything. It was probably nothing, or so I tried to convince myself. Saturday night, things got weird again. We were sitting around the fire pit just after midnight, and I kept catching movement in the trees. You know how your eyes play tricks on you when it's dark, and the firelight flickers. But this felt different, like a deliberate shape moving between shadows. It was like someone ducking just out of view, close enough to sense our warmth. Anyone else feel like we're being watched? Joel laughed, but the laughter sounded thinner than before. He was the software guy. Smart, loud, always making jokes. We all kind of laughed it off too. Told ghost stories to make it feel like a game. But when we turned in for the night, I closed every curtain in the bedroom, feeling the weight of unseen eyes outside. I couldn't explain it, but something felt off. A subtle chill threading through the silence. The next morning was beautiful. Warm sunlight, birds everywhere, the comforting scent of pine and coffee and sunscreen filled the air, but it all felt too peaceful to be real. We were planning to go kayaking, but Carrie came back from a morning walk, looking pale. The forest air suddenly felt heavier and colder. "Come with me," she said, grabbing my wrist. About 50 feet into the woods, hidden in the hollow of an old tree trunk, was a phone. Its dark screen reflected our anxious faces faintly. Not hers, not mine, none of ours. It was propped inside the tree, with a twig balanced, deliberately, like someone had prepared it carefully. The screen was black, but when I picked it up, it buzzed. Still charged, no passcode, the Photos app was open, and what we saw made my knees go weak, the kind of weakness that steals every breath. Hundreds of videos. Us sitting by the fire, floating in the lake, carrying groceries into the cabin, sleeping. Some of them were taken from above, carefully framed from the second-story window, like someone who'd been there all along. Others were filmed through cracks in the curtains. One of me brushing my hair in the bathroom, completely unaware of the hidden camera's gaze. Another of Joel scratching his stomach in his boxers while making breakfast, the sunlight turning innocent motion into exposure. There were even clips of us talking about work, about dumb things like politics and what cereal brand is best. Our laughter now evidence, not joy. Private moments, mundane moments, but someone had been there listening, watching, and quietly recording everything. We all stood in the living room, hearts pounding in stunned silence, phone in the center of the coffee table, like it might explode any second. No one said anything for a long time. When we finally checked the rest of the property, we didn't find anything else. No backpacks, no tripods, no hidden shelter nearby. We called the rental owner who drove up that afternoon with her brother, both visibly tense and pale. She was genuinely shocked and promised to file a report. The cops took the phone, we gave statements. That night, none of us slept, our minds replaying every uneasy moment in silence. The final clip we remembered seeing was time-stamped 11:03 p.m., the night before we found it. It was filmed from just outside the bathroom window. You could see me brushing my teeth, humming a little tune. I didn't even remember singing a haunting sound, now frozen forever on screen. And right at the end of the clip, I looked straight at the camera right through the window into the silent eyes of someone watching. I didn't know. I didn't feel it. But somehow they were close enough to see the color of my eyes standing just beyond the thin glass divide. I always take the same route home. I live in a quiet, ordinary suburban neighborhood in Burbank. Not the fancy part with studios and tourists, but the quieter section near Glen Oaks. You know, the kind with soft afternoon shadows and distant cicada hums, palm trees, cracked sidewalks, and two-bedroom houses that all look like they were built in the same year. I just finished my shift at the summer camp. I work at 7 long hours of sunscreen, laughter, and endless glittery chaos. Just looked at me, her calm eyes steady and unreadable, smiled faintly, and said I was looking for my friend. Thought she came in here. I nodded, even though it didn't really make sense. The air felt heavier now, uneasy and strange. Cool. Yeah, not much to see down that way. She gave a tiny nod and walked past quietly, but with purpose, into the kitchen. I didn't think much of it. Not until about 15 minutes later, when I saw Chelsea coming down the stairs looking pissed. She caught my eye right then. At first, I thought she was just another teenager, the kind you barely notice until it's too late. Black Converse, faded backpack, long dark hair. She couldn't have been more than a year older or younger than me. She was maybe a block behind, walking the same direction. I didn't overthink it. People live in neighborhoods, people walk. But I'm cautious by nature, always sensing when the air turns strange. My mom drilled it into me from an early age. Every instinct matters when the night feels wrong. Trust your gut. Cross the street if something feels weird. Never keep both earbuds in. So when I reached the corner near that old lavender house with the chipped porch, I slowed down. I pretended to tie my shoe and looked behind me. Her shadow lingered, steady and deliberate. She had slowed too. And right at the end of the clip, I looked straight at the camera, right through the window, into the silent eyes of someone watching. I didn't know. I didn't feel it. But somehow they were close enough to see the color of my eyes standing just beyond the thin glass divide. I always take the same route home. I live in a quiet, ordinary suburban neighborhood in Burbank. Maybe she lived on this street. Maybe. Then she suddenly, almost silently, sped up. I didn't hear her. Just the slow, rhythmic crunch of sneakers speeding up behind me, not running, just faster, like she was closing the gap. So I turned, not dramatically, just enough to make it obvious that I saw her. She smiled, calm but strangely deliberate. I didn't know what to do. I half smiled back out of politeness and kept walking, heart pounding against the quiet night. That's what you're taught to do, right? Keep calm, even when your pulse races. Don't overreact. Be polite. Be cautious, but not rude. At the corner of Chestnut and Alcott, I stopped. Streetlights hummed faintly in the warm air. That's where the little community library box is. The one with peeling paint and a bunch of old Stephen King paperbacks inside. The silence pressed close around me. I pretended to browse, letting her pass me if she was going to, but she didn't. She stopped too, a few feet away, still smiling beneath the quiet yellow streetlight. Now I was sure. I took a breath and said, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need something?" She tilted her head slowly, almost curious, like she didn't understand the question. Then she said, "I've seen your bedroom window." I stared at her. She added, almost sing-song, her voice light but unnervingly steady. "You keep the fan on." My mouth went dry. She was right. I live in a quiet, lonely, one-story house. My window faces the street, but it's shaded by dense green bushes and tall trees. You can't see it unless you stop and look. And even then, you'd have to know exactly what to look for. I stepped back, heart pounding in my chest. She kept standing there. Her smile didn't change. It wasn't menacing. It wasn't friendly either. It was frozen, lifeless, disturbingly calm and unwavering. "What do you want?" I asked. She didn't answer, just turned around and walked away. No rush, no looking back. She didn't run. She didn't laugh. She just disappeared around the corner, as if having finished her strange purpose, like she'd finished what she came for. I didn't wait. I ran the rest of the way home, skipping my usual turns and doubling back once to ensure no one was following again. When I got inside, I locked the door and went straight to my window. The fan was still humming, pointed directly toward my bed, and yeah, the curtain had been pulled halfway back. Anyone standing across the street at night could have clearly seen me sleeping. I told my mom everything, hoping for guidance and calm reassurance after the shocking discovery. She didn't hesitate wisely and immediately called the non-emergency police line and filed a report. An officer came by that night. I gave a description about my age, maybe 5 feet 6 inches long, dark hair, jeans, no tattoos or markings I noticed. But the weirdest part, incredibly and strangely, they couldn't find her. Nobody matching that description lived nearby. No other reports. No one had seen her hanging around. I showed the officer where I thought she'd been watching me from, and he just kind of nodded, took notes, and said, "It's probably just someone messing around." But here's what messes with me. A few days later, I found something in the bushes outside my window. It was a bracelet, one of those cheap plastic kinds you get from vending machines left behind as an eerie and unsettling reminder. Purple beads too small for an adult. I hadn't seen it before. My mom hadn't either. I still don't know if it was hers or if she left it on purpose. But after that night, I kept the window shut every single night, fan or no fan, never leaving any opening. I don't even like walking home from the bus stop anymore. And here's the part I never told anyone, not even my mom. I don't know if she ever came back, but I haven't slept with the window open since. There was a blackout, so I figured my eyes were playing tricks, but that shadowy figure remained hauntingly in place, unwavering. We don't get a lot of intense storms in Albany, not like down south. But that night was different. It started around 7 dark clouds rolling rapidly, with flashes of lightning illuminating the eerie yard. Big rolling thunder and wind that kicked up like it had something urgent to prove. I had the windows open to let in some breeze, and then everything went dead. The lights, my monitors, the fridge, the ceiling fan, all gone. I grabbed a flashlight from the junk drawer and lit a couple candles. No big deal, I actually kind of enjoy these first quiet moments of blackouts. It forces you to slow down and notice the subtle, eerie details around you. I opened a beer, cracked the back door, and stepped onto the covered porch. It was warm and wet out like the air. Couldn't decide whether to rain or just sit damply on your skin. My backyard isn't huge, maybe 40 feet across, fenced securely on 3 sides with a tall hedge that covers the rear. I have a grill, a patio table, and a motion sensor floodlight that was obviously not working tonight. But then I saw this shape. I thought it was just a dark patch in the bushes, nothing special. But then lightning flashed and it lit up the yard for a split second. There was something standing just in front of the hedge. A kid. I blinked hard. I don't have kids, and none of my neighbors have little ones that would be outside this late, especially in a cold, wet, stormy, and unsettling night. I stepped off the porch and took a few steps into the yard. My flashlight beam wasn't powerful enough to reach, and I didn't want to shout. It was one of those moments where you just wait for your brain to make sense of what you're seeing. Lightning lit up the yard again, still there, standing facing the house, not moving, eerily silent in the relentless pouring rain, motionless and foreboding. I called out, "Hey, you okay? You lost or something?" Nothing, not even a twitch. I stepped back inside, locked the front door securely, and grabbed my phone to call non-emergency police. No service, of course. Cell towers must have gone out with the storm. I stood at the kitchen window watching. Still there. My dog Harley, a rescue mutt who barks at squirrels and pizza delivery guys like his life depends on it, was crouched behind the kitchen table, just staring at the dark, rain-soaked back door with his ears flat. I'd never seen him like that before. I pulled down one of the candles and sat in the living room. Every 10 minutes, I'd peek out. Still there, still standing. I thought maybe it was a scarecrow or something someone dragged out as a harmless prank in pouring rain. But who would do that in a storm? And how would they get into my yard? The side gates were chained and securely locked against intrusion. I know that for a fact because I'd locked them earlier in the day while mowing. At some point, I must have nodded off on the couch, exhausted from earlier tasks. I woke up around 3 a.m. The storm still raging outside, power completely out. I rushed to the window, gone just like that. The yard was empty. The hedge was still silent and eerily undisturbed by any presence. My grill cover had blown halfway across the lawn, and the patio chairs had tipped over, but the spot where the kid had been standing was empty. Harley still refused to go out, staring cautiously toward the darkened hedge, as if sensing something invisible. The power came back around 9 a.m. I made coffee, gave Harley his food, and tried to forget about it, but the lingering sense of dread wouldn't leave me. So I pulled up the security camera footage from the night before. I have 3 separate strategically placed security cameras, one facing the front porch, one on the driveway, and one pointed right at the backyard. I scrubbed through the footage. Nothing, just wind and rain. The trees thrashing, patio chairs falling. No sign of anyone standing in the yard. I watched again. Still nothing. No glitch, no shadow, no distortion, just complete and unsettling nothing. I went outside to check the area. The grass was soaked, but there were no footprints, no signs of anyone standing there. And yet I knew in my gut what I saw. Harley knew too. He still wouldn't go near the hedge. He circled the yard wide whenever I let him out, giving that back corner a wide and careful berth. 2 weeks later, I finally brought it up to my neighbor Mike while we were grilling and talking casually. "Hey, did you lose power during that storm?" "Yeah, whole block went dark. Creepy night, dark and strangely quiet with wind gusts." "Huh? You see anything weird out back like anyone in your yard or mine?" He shook his head. "Nah, didn't even look out there." "Why? Someone may have quietly messed with your place unnoticed." I kind of froze for a second. Just watched Harley sniffing around the garden, then veering left again. Same as always. Harley still avoids that shadowy corner like it bit him once. "Just thought I saw something, that's all. Probably nothing." Mike nodded like he got it, but I could tell he thought I was imagining things. Maybe I was, maybe not. Even now, with the lights back on, I can't walk to that part of the yard at night. Not alone. If the creepiest part was how easily it all could have happened to you, you're not alone in feeling uneasy. Thank you for watching and supporting the channel. If you'd like to share your own story to be featured in an upcoming video, please email me at nighthorrorstoriesUS@gmail.com. Every story has the power to touch someone's heart. And who knows, maybe your story will be the next one told. Send it in today, and let's share unforgettable moments together.